The Renaissance, a time of rebirth, of revolution, of rediscovery. But behind the breathtaking paintings and philosophical treatises, behind the marble sculptures and domes that touched the heavens, were people, real people, living, struggling, thriving, dying. How did they eat? How did they work? How did they love? And how did they survive the darkness that still lurked beneath the light? This is not just the story of art and genius, it's the story of sweat-soaked laborers, cloaked merchants, daring explorers, and powerful rulers. A world where science collided with superstition and the church danced a delicate game with the crown. From the cobbled alleys of Venice to the grand palaces of Florence, we're peeling back the curtain on a forgotten reality. Welcome to the world beneath the canvas. The Renaissance, which spanned roughly from the 14th to the 17th century, was a period of profound cultural, artistic, intellectual, and social transformation in Europe, beginning in Italy and eventually spreading across the continent. The word Renaissance means rebirth, and it marked a renewed interest in the classical ideas of ancient Greece and Rome. Society was deeply hierarchical. At the top were the nobility and wealthy merchant families like the Medici in Florence, followed by artisans, merchants, and tradespeople. At the bottom were peasants and laborers, many of whom worked the land under feudal-like systems, especially early in the Renaissance. Urban areas like Florence, Venice, and Rome became bustling centers of trade, art, and learning. Townspeople were exposed to new ideas through art, books, and conversations in public squares. Rural life, however, was slower and harder. Most peasants were still tied to agricultural work, and their lives were governed by the seasons and the church calendar. Families were patriarchal, with men in charge and women expected to manage the household and bear children. However, women of the upper class sometimes received education and were patrons of the arts, like Isabella d'Este. Children were often seen as small adults and expected to contribute to the family's labor or trade early in life. Wealthy people lived in large multi-story homes with courtyards and frescoed walls, while commoners lived in modest, crowded houses or cottages. Diets depended on status. Nobles ate a variety of meats and imported goods, while peasants had simpler fare like bread, porridge, and vegetables. Education flourished, especially among the wealthy. The invention of the printing press in the mid-15th century by Gutenberg made books more accessible, spreading knowledge. Humanism, a key intellectual movement of the Renaissance, emphasized the potential and achievements of humans, focusing on secular subjects alongside traditional religious teachings. Religion remained central, but the Renaissance also sparked questions about religious authority, eventually leading to the Reformation in the 16th century. Art and architecture were often religious in theme, but with more realism and emotional depth than in the medieval period. This was the age of Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael, artists who redefined art with perspective, anatomical accuracy, and emotion. Music, theater, like the plays of Shakespeare, and festivals were common forms of entertainment, especially among the urban population. The Renaissance wasn't a single, uniform experience for everyone, but it brought a sense of change and progress that shaped the modern world.